everyone. Tonight we're going to go over Prunella vulgaris. I believe this is a pretty important one as well. And as with all things, you can look at the pictures here and see what it actually looks like. What is it? Is a herb that has been used to treat illnesses for centuries. So a lot of these, again, are something that's been around for thousands, 2,000, 3,000 years that Chinese and other cultures have obviously used. And if they have used them for that long, then obviously they work, right? So, all that being said, it's a member of the mint family and has large green leaves and purple flowers. It grows all over the world, including North America, Europe, and Asia. So, right here, if you see it, that's why I like showing the pictures of it right here. If you see it growing around you, especially if you have any vegetation, then it's probably right around there, which is amazing. Like them little dandelions that everybody wants to spray and get rid of and all that are good for your health as well. Now, this one here is also known as a heal-all due to its traditional use in healing wounds, throat infections, and several other ailments. So I know a lot of people, when they hear that, they say there is no heal all, right? There is nothing that heals everything, but that ain't why it says that, right? We're trying to get the grammar right. But that ain't really particularly why it says it's a heal all. It's a heal all because of the bigger things that it actually combats. So let's go over a few more and talk about it. Possible health benefits of this plant are attributed to its several compounds, including flavonoids, tannins, ursolithic and rosmarinic and oxalic acids, which may have anti-inflammatory and antitoxin properties. So what I'm finding when I look these up, each one of these, it's amazing, really, that every one of these kind of combat a certain thing. They all kind of sound alike, if you will. If you notice, almost week after week, we have the same anti-inflammatory, antitoxic properties. So it seems like they all sound the same, right? It's like, well, if I take one, I get the other, but that's not true. That's as probably different from taking aspirin and taking Pepto-Bismol, right? There's two whole different spectrums looking at, right? And it's just, it's evident when you start taking it. It doesn't seem like it on the top of the surface because the way we're handed, but we're handed down a lot of things that sound very similar, but they're not really the way it comes out to be, right? So anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, which of course are good, but it depends on which kind of anti-inflammatory antioxidant, because if you're just trying to get rid of a sore throat, if you're trying to get rid of a stomach, if you're trying to get a gas, those type of things, that's a whole different thing than a cancer or a lymphoma or a leukemia or something in that order, right? So these sort of things are sounding the same, but they're not actually the same. And that's why I believe so many people never get cured of what they're diagnosed with or have, or however you look at it, because there's so many of these out there, and to look at them, they look a lot the same. So what do? We try them and we test them, and that's why we do this, right? So specifically, these compounds may help prevent complications associated with diabetes, protect against herpes, and have anti-cancer effects. Now, I know some people that have things that I believe they could be cured of, but they just will not take it because of whatever reason, right? Now, that's because of what they're doing. It's not because they're not taking these, it's because they don't want to take them. And I understand in a lot of cases, people are scared of taking these things that they know nothing about. But that's where we research and we pray and we ask and we figure out what is going on and can it help us? Can it help us at all? Right? So specifically, these compounds may help combat, again, diabetics, herpes and anti-cancer. And if you ever talk to anybody who's had herpes, it's of course incurable, so they say. But these things here tested are saying that it gets rid of it. Now, as far as I'm concerned, and this is my opinion, what I submit, if it goes away, it's gone away. If it's still, if you can't see it, touch it, it's not killing you, that's good enough for me, right? Now, if you do a blood test and they say you're still positive for tuberculosis, herpes, but if it's not hurting you, then you see what I'm saying? So if this keeps that at bay, if you will, then I believe that's good enough. But that's, again, my opinion, but it's probably many people's opinion as well that have dealt with any of these things, right? So any of this stuff that's going on with their body, they're liking the results, if you will. Now, of course, you can take it in a solid pill, liquid extract, as well in balms and ointments, and it can be applied directly to your skin, and you can find it online, eBay, Amazon, all these different places, right? So you can find these things and use it. Now, if you have like the lymphoma and you have the problems where it's actually on your skin, then obviously you can put this on your skin and hopefully it will do something for you. The same thing to putting it in your body. All right, let's go. Again, several animal test tube studies suggest that Prunella vulgaris may have health benefits. However, few human studies analyze the effects of this herb. So again, we're always going to get this. We don't know how it works, but there's thousands of years that people who say it do. Now, don't take my word for it. Do your study, do your research, look it up. And of course, get all your blood work and everything that you need with this, because that's what matters. The real thing is, does it help you? Will it help you? Can it help you? And that's what matters, right? It may help prevent complications associated with diabetes, a disease marked by high blood pressure and sugar levels. Studies in test tubes and rodents suggest that certain compounds in this herb may inhibit enzymes and break down the metabolize carbohydrates in your body. And this, in turn, leads to your lower blood sugar levels and improved diabetes control. And you can't just keep eating junk. A lot of people look into this and they want to cure diabetes. They want to cure what's going on. They want to cure the problem. But if you keep feeding the problem, if you keep feeding the wolf and wonder why he keeps coming back and eating your chickens, well, you kind of get what's going on there. So the same thing, if you keep feeding the problem, and I know it's hard in this world with, McDonald's and all these things around, that it's hard to even eat and to get along, but we have to find a way, or we run into a lot of sickness. We run into a lot of problems when we don't take that narrow path. And I know it's a narrow path and it's hard to go down, but usually when you get older, you realize of what you partake, what you ate, what you drank, what you was around is what makes you pay later for it. All that going on, it may protect against the osteoporosis and a hardening of the arteries that can increase your risk of heart attack. Well, of course, if you know that your arteries are getting hardened and you're getting blood and you're getting all this, smashed down, well, of course, you're going to eventually have a heart attack or stroke or something along the lines. So all of these are to prevent this. People with diabetics are more likely to develop risk factors, including artery damage or high blood pressure, high blood sugar, elevated triglycerides, and high total LDL bad cholesterol. So again, we're trying to get rid of all the bad stuff out of your body. And a lot of it usually is, sad to say, it's built up for years and we ain't done a thing about it until we get heart problems or this problem or that problem or some kind of problem. And then we realize, or we go to the doctor and the doctor tells us we have a problem, or we realize, we don't really need a doctor all the time. We realize there's a lump on your neck, there's a lump on your foot, there's a lump here, your chest is, something's going horrifically wrong, and you realize, oh, gee, now what? And that's not the time we want this to happen. But praise Yahweh, there is things out here that He's made upon this earth that we can help with this. So again, you have to do your research, you have to study, you have to pray about these things and put it all out there. And there are other people that do this too. There are actually herbalists that you can find and do these things, that will hopefully help you. But you have to be careful with them, because a lot of them want money and want, they're trying to make something out of it too. So you have to be careful with all aspects. Okay, let's go on. Your LDL, your bad cholesterol. Now, according to a lot of studies that I've found, this can lead to also cancers and lymphoma to be a big one as well. When you can't get rid of the stuff you're supposed to get rid of, it binds up, it builds up. Your lymph system is one of the things that's supposed to help combat this. For whatever reason, your body doesn't do this, then guess what? It builds up. Supposedly in meats, especially meats that we're not even supposed to eat, and some of the meats with what they're putting into them, so on and so forth. Again, your cholesterol builds up to a point where, I said it before, I think it's like a water hose. And if you put something around a water hose and leave it out in the sun, and what's going to happen? Eventually, it gets warm enough, it's going to burst. It's going to create a bubble. And that's what happens a lot of times in the body. It's got to go somewhere, and then the body malfunctions, so on and so forth. One 8-week study found that diabetic mice and high in fat and cholesterol gave some of them Prunella vulgaris extract. The mice given this had lower total blood cholesterol, bad cholesterol, right? So we see this works, and if you would look these up, it's harder to find the humans, but there is Japanese, Chinese studies that that they actually use this as a medicine for these. It's not just what we're saying here. They're actually using these, giving them to patients who's been diagnosed with, say, lymphoma, blood sugar, diabetes, type 2, all these things, that they're actually prescribing these instead of other things for them, which I find is very amazing as well. Certain compounds in it may have anti-cancer effects. Specific carbohydrates in the plant have been shown to induce cancer cell death and prevent tumor growth in test tube studies. Now, again, it sounds like a shot in the dark, if you will. It sounds like, well, what's a test tube study got to do with it? But we also have to understand, when they take, say, lymphoma and put it in a test tube and put it in with human cells, either it grows or it doesn't, right? So it's a real scientific movement, or real scientific fact, if you will. Either it kills it or it doesn't. And when it does, that means a lot. It don't just, and I know for a lot of people that doesn't have nothing, it doesn't matter to them. But to people who are looking for their life and diagnosed with certain things, this means a lot to them, right? So we're not trying to say this is a cure. We're not trying to say this is any more than what it is. But again, do your research, look up these things and find out. And then with all things, ultimately, really, you just got to try it for yourself. It's just like any of this stuff here. Eventually, if you believe in it, you researched it, you have to get you a little bit, and you have to try it and see if it works. If it works and it, deals with your diabetic or your tumor or whatever it may be that you're dealing with, then it works. But if not, then of course it does. But we have so many that I believe these are more of specific for those, if that makes sense. Test tube studies also show that the caffeic acid, rosmarinic acid, and other plant compounds in this herb may act again as antitoxins that fight underlying cell damage. This damage is caused by reactive molecules called free radicals, which are linked to cancer development. There's some cancers, and I think that's what some cancers are, is there's tumor cancers that just explode. Some are very slow, some are very fast. And your cell, your T cells, your cells are going to make the wrong thing. And when they start making the wrong thing, then that's where it keeps adding and adding and adding. Where this very well may be something to destroy that cell damage and destroy them tumors. Again, it's research, it's a trial and error type of thing, to be honest, from my point of view. Now, some people may know this works, they may have tried it, and some people may have tried it and it doesn't work. But what I'm submitting is the reason why it would not work is lymphoma is different than leukemia, and that's different than colon cancer, which is different than bone cancer. So, every one of these is a different attack or a different weapon is needed, right? So the same thing for diabetic, that you need to use the right thing to make it go away. But if you keep using it, then hopefully it will stay away, but you have to fight it at the right one here, right? So a lot of it is cell damage. The other cancers are more of an eating cancer, that eat your body up instead of going the other way. So with all that being said, we'll go on. One study in human liver cells found that Prunella vulgaris stopped the spread of cancer by inhibiting certain enzymes that promote cancer growth. So again, I know when people hear cancer, they get diagnosed with it. They think that's a death sentence. And usually, if left untreated or not treated correctly, then usually it's that or something else that destroys the body. But these can be taken and you can keep trying different ones. Some are stronger than others. Some are more potent than others, if you will. So you can't just take these things like they're candy, right? You can't just grab a hold of this stuff and take it and say, well, I'm going to take 3 spoonsful of this and see if it works. It's probably just going to hurt you worse than it's going to help you, and then you're going to have a violent reaction, and then you ain't even going to want to take it anymore, and your body will not probably want to even accept it, right? You ever do something and your body just don't want to accept it anymore, it gets sick from it. So very gently, very gingerly, easy on taking any of this. And again, blood work, diagnosis, do a lot of research, a lot of praying. Furthermore, a study in 424 people with breast cancer found that those who took the herb along with the anti-cancer medication lived significantly longer than those who took the medication alone. So we have research that shows what it can do, what it has done. So in fact, almost twice as many people in the group who took the Prunella vulgaris with the medication showed no evidence of disease after their treatment, compared with those who did not take the supplement alongside their medication. So again, we deal in facts, and facts are the best. So twice as many people that took this did what? They did better, right? Excuse me. So what we have to do is stick with the facts, go with what works. And if it doesn't work, then of course, don't try it, right? Or don't keep on it. May help treat herpes. Herpes is another very, very hard thing to deal with. Very hard to deal with. Oh, let me get this here. It is often cited as a possible treatment for herpes simplex virus, HSV. Which is marked by a continuous sores around your mouth and other places, of course. So this is something that, again, is saying that it is never going away, is what I've heard a lot of people say. But with this, again, if it goes away and it doesn't bother you, is what I'm saying. Now, scientifically, if it's still in your blood, if it's still in your system, sometimes it's called a remission or something of that nature. But as long as it's not bothering you or contagious, then in my opinion, that's a win, right? So let's go on. Let's see. In addition to blocking the virus from spreading, it may protect against the herpes by stimulating the activity of the immune cells. And again, anything that we can do at a cellular level is awesome. Anything that we can get to at a cellular level and deal with is what we want to deal with. Because then when it gets bigger than this, then you're talking about a bigger problem. So if we can break anything down, herpes, cancer, diabetes, any of these things, if we can bring it down to a cellular level, then in my opinion, I would submit to you that is a very good win, right? Because if we're just talking about a cell, what usually kills people is malnutrition or a humongous overload of the liver, the lungs, something vital, right? Something that your body just can't come back from. And that's usually what, and cancer is usually just a what is it where you die of malnutrition? Excuse me, my chain of thought there, where it's a malnutrition thing. So your body's fighting and fighting and fighting, and it's very hard for it to keep up. So that's where a lot of these, and yes, you can, people have asked me that before. Yes, you can put these with others, just like it says, you can mix these with feverfew or other ones or whatever that you helps you with what you're doing. And maybe that is the answer. Maybe it is for some people. I've heard people take several different herbs together to get rid of something. And if that works, then that works. But you just have to be careful the more you combine them and the more you put together. So let's go on a couple more items here. It may also help fight inflammation in your body and thus have the potential to help treat the inflammatory diseases. Another test tube study in humans, heart muscle cells found that Prunella vulgaris extract suppress the activity of inflammation proteins known to lead to developmental heart disease and to stroke, like what we was talking about before. Anything that we can do to keep our heart, our lungs, our vital organs moving and doing better, the better off that we should live. Now, we're all appointed time. We don't know when it is. We don't know what could happen tomorrow, a bus, whatever. But in general, we're trying to be as healthy and provide as much as we can for this gift that Elohim gave us, this body, right? Prunella vulgaris has also been shown to fight intestinal inflammation in mice, and it may protect the diseases like colitis and inflammatory condition of the colon that can cause diarrhea, stomach pain, and rectal bleeding. And of course, usually this also leads to colon cancer, right? If you're going to have these little polyps and these little things in your colon and inflammation and then diarrhea, stomach pain, and it turns into bleeding, usually it's not too much, if not showing there that is, another colon cancer. So if you have any of those signs, this would also be a great time to study this out and look into it and say, hey, maybe I should try some of this, right? We will do, I think, one more. We have a couple minutes. And this is, very good. We'll just go to the top and show it again. Very, very good for your body, for getting rid of things. And again, it's just a beautiful little thing that Yahweh's given us, that the Creator has made that we can partake of. And that's what I find this so amazing, that this is something that He has given to us. And, even Revelations of the healing of the nations. And we have all these things right here at our fingertips And it just amazes me that there isn't more people that study and try to find this out. But I understand because, you know, a lot of times you don't study these things unless you find out someone is sick or something's going on. And if you even ask anybody, sadly, they usually tell you, oh, that doesn't work. You're wasting your time anyway. So that discourages most of the people who even would look into it. But if you keep at it, you find all these ones again, there's all kinds of things. Now, some of these things ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? These are not the cheapest thing, but let me tell you, something like this and going to a doctor, I mean, to me, there's no the doctor visit, the scare, the talk, the dummy down talk, and you don't know, it's just everything seems to be out of your control. Like they're your God, if you will, and just what I see, and your life is in their hands, as opposed to Elohim made this, and he says if you take this, then and not that he says you take this, but I'm saying we have all these to take, and a lot of them are medical purposes. They're not for anything other than that. And this is feverfew here. This is something to break a fever that works with this, I believe, and kind of enhances together. And as you see, it's not a very big thing here, right? It's just a little bitty baggie, and you just take a little bit and you put in your little cup and mix it around right there. And I put a little bit of warm water, and it's got like a flowery taste as well too, but it's also good for colds and sore throats and when you've been outside way too long. And that's something, if you're gonna study this stuff out, then it's good to know it and to use it yourself, I believe too. So with all that being said, I hope this edifies, I hope it helps, and I hope that you would do the research and study it, but please don't take any of this stuff without researching, without having something wrong with you as well too, or something that you need to take it, because again, this is not a candy. It's not something that you would just take. It's something you take for specifically inflammation or problems, or bigger problems. So thank you. Shalom.